One of my big bugbears is that people often refer to Sudoku as a mathematical puzzle. It's not. It's a logic puzzle. The numbers are just symbols being used. Kakuro, on the other hand, turns it into a maths puzzle, which will be up some people's street and not others. But we're going to solve this one today. It could be a long solve. We'll have to wait and see how hard this turns out. The rules of Kakuro, if you're not familiar, is that each of these boxes, the lines of boxes, add up to the number that's in the clue on the left-hand side. The same number can't appear in the same clue twice. Therefore, there are certain combinations that will work. I do recommend that you get yourself a cheat sheet for Kakuro to remind you what these numbers add up to if you're not mostly mathematically minded and want to treat it more like a logic puzzle. But we're going to try and avoid that today. So the best place to open on any Kakuro is by finding the numbers that can only be one thing. Now, combinations of numbers mean that there are lots of these in the puzzle. So for example, if it's a 6 and it has 3 numbers, then the numbers have to be 1, 2, and 3. So we can go straight away and say that this clue here, we're going to put some pencil marks in to help us remember that those need to be 1, 2, and 3 because they're the only 3 numbers that will add up to 6. Now what we can do with that information straight away is that the number 3, which is in the center, means that if this box here was a 3, then it would already be 3 and not any other number would add to it. So it can't be 3. It has to be a 1 or a 2. So we can take that out, the pencil mark, and we can mark that one as a 1 or a 2. Then this is actually a 6, so we can mark this as a 1, 2, 3 as well. You are going to need to use your pencil marks on this one, I think. Very, very hard mode, if not. Now let's move down here and look at this 16. So the only 2 numbers that can add up to 16 are 7 and 9, because if it was 2 8s, there'd be 2 8s, and you can't have a repeating number. So it must be 7 and 9. Now looking across here, this 23, 7, 8, and 9 add up to 24. So the only numbers that can add up to 23 are 6, 8, and 9. Now because there's this 7 here, marked, we know that can't be a 7 because it has to be 6, 8, 9 in the 23. So we know that that must be the 9 and that must be the 7. And then we can put in here 6 and 8 as penciled. We do the same thing down here. Again, the 16 must be a 9 and 7. The 17 must be an 8 and 9. And this can only be a 7 or a 9, so it must be a 9, which means that must be the 8, which means this must be 7. Now we're just going to go around and fill in a few more of those before we come back, because you never know which part of the puzzle is going to open and unlock the other part. There's always one move to make next, at least one. So best to just kind of go around and fill in what you know. So again, 16 must be 7 and 9, and then the 17 here means that it must be 9. So that must be 8 and 9, and that must be 7. And then this 16 here must be the 9, which means this one must be the 6 in order to add up to 23. Now, we can see that this one is an 11, so 5 needs to go in there, which means that this must be a 1, and the 4, that can only be a 3. So you can see how quickly it builds together. Let's go mark something else. So 16 again is 7 and 9, and 7 and 9, and the 16 across would be 7 and 9. Now what adds up to 15? 9 and 6, or 8 and 7? So we don't know which one that will be just yet. So the best way to do it is to go look somewhere else and see what we can find out. Got a 16 here, that's That's a 7 and 9 again. And then this one's a 9 in total, so it can't be 9 here, it has to be the 7, which means that's the 9. This must be a 2, and 9 plus 5 is 7, sorry, my bad, is 16. There's a 24 here, which is the top of the shop. We know that that must be 7, 8, and 9. 23 going across here must be 6, 8, and 9, which means that can't be a 7. But the 7 needs to be somewhere else. The 16 here means that that can't be an 8, because then the other number would have to be an 8, so we can take that out. And this will also be a 7 and 9. And 15 would need to be an 8 or a 6. Uh, 23 needs to be 6, 8, or 9. Right, now this is where we've got the intersection of the two. So we already know that this one below is a 1, 2, or 3. And so it could be, this one here can't be a 6, because 6 plus 1, 2, or 3 wouldn't equal 11. So we can take the 6 out of the pencil marks there. And what we see then is that now the 6 can't be there, and the 6 can't be there either, so it must be there. Which means that that is a 9, and that is a 7. We're going to put some pencil marks in over here. The 16 needs to be a 7 or 9, as does that one. We can also put pencil marks here, because 11 plus 4, 7 plus 4 is 11, and 9 plus 2 is 11. That's going to be a 2 and a 4, which means that this one would have to be 3 to add to the 4, or 5 to add to the 2. So we can put both of those in. 23 is our old friend 6, 8, and 9. And we can see that this 7 here can't be an 8 or a 9. It has to be a 6 and a 1. Which means that this has to be a 3. Which means that that one has to be a 5, and that a 2, and that a 9, and that one a 7. Okay, for fans of big sums, 38 can only be made with one combination of these numbers, and that is 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we've got 3, 5, 7 already. So we need a 6, 8, and a 9. So we can do 6, 8, 9 now. So the 15 needs to be 9 plus 6 or 7 plus 8, which means that can't be the 9. We might need some help from the other end on that one. Now look at this great big number over here, this 37, and it's what? 8 numbers. That can't have too many combinations. In fact, surely it's only one. 37, 8 numbers. So that's 40 is the maximum, is it? 45 is the maximum. Which means if it's 37, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. So there can't be an 8. Is that right? Yes. There can't be an 8 in this number here. Which means that if right down here, that can't be an 8, so it must be a 6. That must be the 8. And then what have we got? 21. We've already got 15, so that needs to add up to 6. Can't be a 3 and a 3. Could be a 2 and a 4, or it could be a 1 and a 5. There's no help there. 3 numbers that add to 15. So it's got to be... these two need to add up to 12. Which means it needs to be a 4 or an 8, 4 and an 8, or a 5 and a 7. Does that help us? Not a great deal. Let's go back to this 37. We've got 2 and 7 already. The only missing number will be 8. We've got 1 and 3. So what are we missing? We're missing 5. 1, 2, 3. So we're missing 4, 5, and 9. Let's put those in, and then we'll go back. 4, 5, and 9. Now this one can't be a 9 because it wouldn't be able to add up to 6. So we can take that out. Which would mean that this one would have to be a 1 or a 2. Should mean that one would have to be a 4 and a 1. So if this is the 5, then this is the 1, and that would need to be 4. So it can't be. That needs to be 4, that needs to be 2, which means that's 3, and that's 1, and 3, and 2, and 1, and 2, 9, 8, 9, 8, 6, 9, 7, 9. We're very close now. Down here, 29 can only be done with, am I right, that's one combination, 5, 7, 8, 9, so this would need to be a 5 and 9 as well. And if that's a 5 and 9, then to add up to 21, adding up to 21 would be impossible if this is a 9, because you'd already be over. So that must be the 5, that must be the 9, that the 5. And what number are we looking for here? We've already got 8 and 7 is 15, plus 5 is 20, so that must be a 1. And what are we left with now? 5 numbers to equal 15. That's the minimum. For 5 numbers, the minimum, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means that these here must be 2 and 4. And let's see where... So if that's 2 and 4, then to add up, you'd need to add 3 to the 2 or 1 to the 5. So it's either 1 and 3. This is a 6, which means you can't be a 3 because that would be a double number. So that needs to be a 1, that's a 5, that's a 2, and that is a 4. Puzzle complete.